We live in an age of overwhelming abundance, technological progress, and unprecedented connectivity. Yet, despite all of this, an unsettling undercurrent pulses beneath the surface of our daily lives. It's the kind of malaise you can't quite name, but it gnaws at your soul, leaving you feeling restless, incomplete, like something crucial is missing. It's not a loud, explosive crisis, it's subtle, a quiet desperation, an existential numbness that's often mistaken for normality. How many of us, in the quiet moments between tasks, in the hours spent scrolling through our phones, in the rituals of our daily grind, have wondered, why does it feel like something is wrong? Why do I feel like I'm playing a role I never agreed to? We chase success, yet find ourselves unfulfilled. We strive for happiness, only to be met with anxiety. We try to connect with others, but deep down there's a nagging sense of loneliness. You've likely heard it before. You're broken. Perhaps it's been said to you directly. Or maybe you've said it to yourself in a moment of vulnerability. But what if I told you this wasn't the truth? What if, instead of being broken, you're simply lost in someone else's map of who you're supposed to be? This, in essence, is the premise of Carl Jung's most profound and controversial idea. He didn't believe we were broken. He believed we were misaligned. The pain we feel, the confusion, the endless searching for meaning, it all stems from a fundamental disconnection, not from our inherent nature but from the life we've been conditioned to lead. We've been taught to live according to external standards, society's blueprint for success. But what if, just maybe, the map is wrong? We've come to see anxiety, depression, and a pervasive sense of dissatisfaction as signs of personal failure, symptoms of a deep-rooted flaw within ourselves. But these aren't necessarily signs of brokenness. Instead, they could be symptoms of a deeper, far more profound issue: the soul's revolt against a life that isn't its own. A life dictated by expectations, roles, and demands that never asked what you truly need. This journey we're about to explore is about more than just identifying the problem. It's about finding the courage to confront the truth beneath the surface. You are not broken, but you may very well be following the wrong path. This is the essence of Carl Jung's call to individuation. It's a journey of self-discovery, a return to the path you were always meant to walk, the one you lost somewhere along the way. In every moment, there's a part of you that is being shaped. It's invisible, but it's there, quietly forming and reforming, adapting to the demands of the world around you. This part of you is called the persona, and it's not really you. It's the mask you wear in order to survive in the world. But, like any mask, it obscures the truth beneath it. The persona is a concept introduced by Carl Jung, and it is one of the most unsettling ideas he ever proposed. The persona is the version of ourselves that we present to the world, our social face, the one we use to fit into society. It's the version of ourselves that conforms to roles, values, and expectations that were never chosen by us. From the moment we are born, we are thrust into a narrative that is already in motion. Our families, schools, and societies begin to construct a script for us, one that prescribes who we are, what we should value, and what success looks like. We are told to strive for happiness, yet the definition of happiness is already determined by others. We are told what career paths are respectable, what behaviors are acceptable, and what emotions are appropriate. But here's the catch: this isn't a script written by us, it's written by society, by cultural norms, by systems of power that never ask who you really are. Consider the Industrial Revolution, when millions of individuals were funneled into factory jobs, becoming cogs in a machine, their identities no longer tied to craftsmanship or self-expression, but to productivity. It didn't matter who they were at their core. Their worth was determined by how efficiently they could produce. This idea was embedded so deeply into the cultural fabric that it shaped generations, each one coming to believe that their identity was inseparable from their labor. Fast forward to the 1950s, a time when conformity was celebrated and nonconformity was treated with suspicion. In the wake of 2 world wars, there was a collective desire to rebuild society, but at a cost. People were expected to fall into clear-cut roles: father, mother, worker, consumer. There was an unspoken pressure to conform to these roles, as if the very essence of human life, could be contained within a neatly packaged label. Children were taught to behave a certain way. Women were told to embrace domesticity. Men were pushed into the workforce. The individual's inner world, their passions, their struggles, their confusion, none of it mattered unless it served the social order. Today, this pressure to conform is more subtle, but no less potent. With the rise of social media, we've seen a new kind of persona emerge: the social media avatar. This version of you is curated for the public eye, edited to fit the expectations of others. You present a version of yourself that is not truly yours, but a reflection of the ideals, trends, and values of the digital world. You become obsessed with how you are perceived. How many likes did your last post get? How many followers do you have? The more you conform to these external standards, the more you are rewarded. But here's the paradox. As you bend yourself into the shape of what others want to see, you lose touch with who you truly are. Jung believed that the persona is necessary. For survival in society, it's the face we wear to fit in, to avoid rejection, to gain approval. But he also warned that it can become a prison, suffocating the true self. The more we invest in the mask, the less we connect with the core of who we really are. And when that happens, something deeply unsettling begins to occur. We lose our sense of meaning. Our lives begin to feel empty, like we're merely acting out a part in someone else's story. We can go through all the motions, get all the accolades, but still feel like something is missing. It's as if we're living a life that was never meant for us. Jung argued that the only way to find the true self is not through external validation, but by turning inward. It is only by confronting the unconscious, the part of ourselves that we hide from the world, that we can begin to discover who we truly are. But this process is not easy. It demands that we question everything we've been taught, everything we've come to accept as normal. It requires that we shed the mask and face the discomfort of self-exploration. So, let me ask you, if your life feels meaningless, whose meaning are you living? Is it your own? Or have you simply internalized the expectations of the world around you? Are you living in a way that reflects who you really are? Or have you become a character in a script written for you by others? This is the unsettling reality of modern life. We are constantly told who we should be, and we often forget to ask ourselves who we actually are. We confuse the persona for the self, and in doing so, we lose our way. But it doesn't have to be this way. There is a path out of this maze of false identities, a path that leads to true self-awareness. But that path requires the courage to take off the mask, to confront the darkness within, and to begin the difficult, yet profoundly rewarding, journey of individuation. There is a part of you that you've been taught to reject. It lurks in the corners of your psyche, tucked away in the darkness, hidden from the light. This is the shadow, the aspect of the self that you deny, repress, or simply refuse to acknowledge. But this isn't a mere flaw or weakness. It is a necessary part of who you are. It is a force, a power, and if we are to believe Carl Jung, it is the very source of your vitality, your creativity, and your raw truth. The shadow is a powerful concept in Jungian psychology. It's not the evil, destructive force many believe it to be. Instead, it is the unclaimed, unacknowledged part of ourselves that is forced into the unconscious. Society, culture, and our upbringing teach us to repress certain traits, behaviors, and emotions that are deemed undesirable or unacceptable. We suppress anger. We hide our vulnerability. We mask our desires. In doing so, we push these parts of ourselves into the shadow. But the shadow doesn't disappear, it festers, it grows, and it exerts its influence in subtle and sometimes dangerous ways. Take, for example, the rise of Nazi Germany. The regime's obsession with creating a pure race of people was, at its core, a projection of their collective shadow. The fear, hatred, and violence that were denied and repressed by society were projected onto the other, the Jews, the disabled, the Romani, anyone who didn't fit the prescribed image of Aryan superiority. In rejecting these groups as subhuman, the Nazis were rejecting aspects of themselves. The shadow of guilt, fear, and hate was externalized, and it led to one of the most horrific genocides in human history. The repression of the shadow doesn't just harm the individual, it can lead to societal collapse, mass delusion, and the eruption of violence. when the shadow is ignored, it becomes a destructive force. On a more personal level, many people experience breakdowns, emotional, psychological, or even physical, as a result of suppressing their shadow for too long. These breakdowns, however painful, often serve as breakthroughs. A breakdown forces you to confront the unacknowledged parts of yourself. It forces you to face your fears, your guilt, your anger, and your shame. It is only through this confrontation that the shadow can be integrated into the conscious self. And it is this integration that leads to growth. This dynamic plays out in everyday life, especially in our increasingly polarized, performative society. Online outrage culture, for instance, is a perfect example of the projection of the collective shadow. Social media allows people to exorcise their inner demons by pointing fingers at others, casting blame and judgment onto groups or individuals who are deemed wrong. It's easier to condemn the flaws of others than to confront our own. The internet has become a battleground where people hide behind their screens, projecting their unresolved anger and frustration onto others. The cancel culture we witness is a modern manifestation of the shadow, where people ruthlessly attack those who have fallen short of perfection, all while ignoring their own imperfections. Hyperpositivity, too, is a form of shadow denial. We live in an age of relentless self-optimization, where the focus is on constant self-improvement and happiness. But in this pursuit, we often ignore our darker emotions: grief, sorrow, anger, because we have been taught that they are unacceptable. We mask our pain with forced optimism, refusing to acknowledge the deeper, more uncomfortable truths about ourselves. But by denying the shadow, we not only deny the complexity of our humanity, we also rob ourselves of the power and creativity that come from embracing it. The inability to self-reflect, to look inward and confront the aspects of ourselves that we'd rather not see, is one of the greatest barriers to personal growth. It is far easier to point the finger outward than to examine the internal landscape. The shadow is the guardian at the gate of individuation, the journey of becoming who we truly are. And like any guardian, it is both terrifying and essential. It's the thing we fear most, but it's also the very thing we must face if we want to move forward. Without confronting the shadow, we can never truly integrate our whole self. The shadow is not an evil force. It is a source of untapped potential. By embracing it, by accepting all parts of ourselves, both the light and the dark, we free ourselves from the suffocating grip of conformity. We give ourselves the space to be whole, to be authentic. And when we do, we not only reclaim our personal power, but we also break free from the societal forces that would have us remain one-dimensional, controlled by fear and shame. The journey to self-actualization is not a smooth one. It is fraught with discomfort, self-confrontation, and at times pain. But it is only through the integration of the shadow that we can find the courage to live as our true selves. In doing so, we unlock a level of creativity, vitality, and truth that can never be attained by denying our darker sides. The shadow is not the villain of the story. It is, in fact, the hero waiting to emerge from the depths, offering the strength we need to face the world with authenticity, courage, and power. There's a path, a road less traveled, a journey that, once embarked upon, irrevocably alters everything. It is the journey of individuation, the process through which you shed the false skins you've inherited and walk toward your true self. This journey is as old as humanity itself, echoing through myth and legend, from the epic tales of ancient heroes to the most profound psychological theories of modern times. It is the hero's journey, the story of transformation, of confronting the unknown, and of returning from the depths with newfound wisdom. But let's be clear, individuation is not an easy path. It is not a journey of self-discovery that promises comfort, reassurance, or acceptance. It is lonely. It is terrifying. It is filled with obstacles and doubts. It is a confrontation with the unknown, with the darkness within, with the parts of yourself you have long repressed. And yet, it is the only journey that leads to meaning. Why? Because individuation is not about becoming someone new. It's about becoming who you truly are, who you were always meant to be. Beneath the layers of societal conditioning, family expectations, and external validation, it is about reclaiming the authentic self. that has been buried beneath the weight of external demands. This is not a process of gaining more. It is a process of becoming more, of integrating the light and the dark, the conscious and the unconscious, into a whole. But this path is forbidden. It's not a journey that society encourages or rewards. In fact, society resists it at every turn. From the moment we are born, we are taught to conform. Family, education, religion, even the self-help industry, they all emphasize the importance of fitting in, of meeting the expectations of others, of adhering to predefined norms and values. The person who dares to step outside of these boundaries, to challenge the system, to seek their own truth, is often labeled a rebel, a madman, or worse, a dropout. Jung himself acknowledged this struggle. In his writings, he said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." It is a privilege, he argued, because few ever truly embark on the journey of individuation. Most remain locked in the prison of conformity, never daring to confront the unknown depths of their own soul. But to those who do take the journey, the rewards are immense. It is a journey toward wholeness, a journey that leads to the realization of your own potential, your own power, and your own truth. The process of individuation is often symbolized in mythology and alchemy. In these ancient traditions, the hero undergoes a series of trials and transformations, each one representing a stage in the journey of self-realization. The labyrinth is a powerful symbol in this context, an intricate, winding maze that represents the journey inward into the depths of the unconscious, where the self can be discovered in its most authentic form. The alchemist, too, is a fitting metaphor. Just as the alchemist turns base metals into gold, so too must the individual transform their own inner chaos into clarity and purpose. And perhaps the most powerful symbol of individuation is the phoenix rising from the ashes of destruction, reborn and renewed, symbolizing the ultimate transformation that comes from embracing the shadow, confronting the darkness, and integrating all aspects of the self. But here's the problem. Society doesn't want you to rise from the ashes. It wants you to stay within the confines of what is safe, predictable, and manageable. It wants you to remain as you are, because an individual who dares to individuate threatens the established order. When you begin this journey, you become a threat to the very systems that rely on conformity to survive. You are no longer a cog in the machine. You are the machine's disruption. And this disruption is precisely what makes individuation so difficult. Every step you take away from societal norms feels like a betrayal of your family, your culture, your friends, your identity. But Jung believed that it was precisely this betrayal that is necessary to become yourself. You must let go of the person you were expected to be. This is the ultimate paradox. To be who you truly are, you must first let go of who you thought you were. Jung's process of individuation asks us to confront the deepest, darkest parts of ourselves. It is not a path of immediate gratification. It's not about self-help quick fixes or superficial growth. It's about diving into the depths of the soul, confronting the parts of us we fear the most and accepting them. Through this process, the individual emerges from the chaos not as a perfect being, but as a whole one. So, what does it take to embark on this journey? Courage. The courage to walk away from the crowd, to silence the voices that tell you who you should be, and to listen to the quiet whisper of your soul. It takes a willingness to face the unknown and to be transformed by it. It takes the courage to face your own darkness and to integrate it, not as something evil, but as a vital and necessary part of who you are. The journey of individuation is not for the faint of heart, but those who dare to walk this path are the ones who uncover the deepest meaning in life. They are the ones who step into their full potential. They are the ones who find themselves, not by following the rules laid out by society, but by creating their own. The privilege of a lifetime is, indeed, to become who you truly are. But that privilege comes with a cost. It is the cost of losing yourself to find yourself. It is the cost of transformation, of confronting the darkness, and of being reborn. It is the cost of walking a path that, while lonely and terrifying, ultimately leads to the greatest gift of all, the discovery of your own truth. We live in a world where the normal is no longer a measure of health, but a sign of disillusionment. The systems that dictate our lives from government structures to corporate culture, have shaped what we call normal into something dangerously unnatural. Carl Jung warned us of the profound consequences of failing to individuate, saying that a man who is not individuated is not only unfulfilled, but also a danger to society. What does this mean in our modern world, where fulfillment is elusive and sanity is defined by conformity? The truth is, the insanity is not in the individual who dares to break from the herd, but in the very fabric of the society that demands we all adhere to the same script. Consider the daily grind of a bureaucratic system. The sterile, soul-crushing machinery of modern life churns on relentlessly, squeezing individuals into a mold of efficiency, productivity, and compliance. It rewards those who stay in line, who suppress their individuality for the sake of the collective, but it offers little in return. Is it any wonder, then, that the individual feels alienated, detached, and increasingly at odds with the world around them? As Erich Fromm insightfully noted, the structures of modern capitalism reward neurosis if that neurosis aligns with economic or political ends. Burnout becomes a badge of honor, a sign of one's worth in a system that demands more and more. Addiction is normalized. It's not just a product of the body or mind. It is embedded in the very culture. People are addicted to their work, addicted to consumerism, addicted to the fleeting satisfaction of constant distraction. This addiction is sold back to us as wellness, as self-care, as productivity hacks, as just getting by. It's the illusion of control over a life that, in truth, spirals out of control. Jung believed that it is the so-called sane person who is the most deeply asleep, the one who goes through the motions, following the prescribed path without ever questioning it. In our current society, this kind of conformity is not just encouraged, it's expected. To deviate from it is to be branded an outlier, a failure, or even a threat. Society doesn't want you to think too deeply, because critical thinkers are hard to control. The system works best when we are obedient, when we don't challenge the status quo. The truly sane individual, one who has undergone the painful, challenging process of individuation, is often labeled as mad. The person who refuses to conform is perceived as eccentric, rebellious, even insane. But it is precisely this person who is closest to the truth. Jung's critique of modern life cuts through the noise of daily existence. He understood that the person who conforms to societal standards, without questioning them, is not free. They are a prisoner. They are trapped in the illusion of normality, which is, in fact, a form of madness. We are taught to idolize stability, to seek safety and predictability. But in doing so, we miss the vitality that comes with living authentically, with embracing the discomfort that comes from straying off the beaten path. Take a look at the world around you. It's easy to see the signs of this madness. We have become a culture obsessed with superficial success, where material wealth and social status are the ultimate measures of self-worth. The endless pursuit of profit and growth has led to the dehumanization of work, the commodification of everything from our time to our relationships. People are reduced to cogs in a machine, their worth measured by their output, their productivity, their ability to conform to the expectations of a system that demands obedience above all else. But the madness doesn't stop there. The true danger lies in the way we normalize this insanity. We've been conditioned to believe that working ourselves into the ground is a virtue. We are told that if we just work harder, push further, and sacrifice more, we will eventually find happiness. But the reality is that this drive for success, this relentless pursuit of more, is an illusion. It leaves us empty, burnt out, disconnected from our true selves. The rise of social media only amplifies this problem. We present curated versions of ourselves, playing the role of the ideal person, happy, successful, fulfilled. But these avatars are often little more than facades, carefully constructed masks that hide the inner turmoil, the feelings of inadequacy, and the deep, gnawing loneliness that many experience in silence. The pressure to conform to a superficial standard of living is immense, and yet, it is the very thing that keeps us trapped. The truth is, the more we try to fit in, the more we lose ourselves. Jung's assertion that normality is a form of madness becomes clearer when we consider the dehumanizing effects of the modern world. The soul-crushing aspects of bureaucracy, the addiction to consumerism, and the unyielding pressure to conform all contribute to a society that is, at its core, fundamentally unwell. We have created a system that rewards the loss of self, that glorifies the pursuit of external validation, and that punishes those who dare to break free. But the truly mad thing is that most of us have come to accept this system as the way things are supposed to be. We have been conditioned to believe that this is the price of success, that this is what it means to live in the modern world. And yet, beneath the surface of this normal life, there's a yearning for something more, something deeper, something real. The individual who dares to seek out their own truth, to reject the false promises of consumerism, to turn away from the soul-destroying grind of modern existence, is often met with scorn or ridicule. But it is they, the ones who choose to face the darkness, who are on the path toward individuation, toward wholeness. They are the ones who, despite the odds, will eventually find meaning in a world that offers none. They are the ones who dare to be truly sane in an insane world. What if the pain you're feeling right now, the restlessness, the confusion isn't a flaw, isn't a failure, but a signal? What if it's a call, one that you've been ignoring for too long? A call to awaken, to break free from the path you've been walking, a path that was never yours to begin with. This is the transformative message we must now embrace. You are not broken. You are awakening. And the path to this awakening is not easy, but it is necessary. Throughout this journey, we've explored the notion that the modern world has built a system that encourages conformity, distraction, and a deep disconnection from the true self. It's a world that masks its pain in the guise of normalcy, that encourages you to bury the parts of yourself that don't fit within its narrow definitions of success and happiness. But now, we must turn our gaze inward. The pain you feel is not a sign of your inadequacy. It is an invitation. It is the voice of your soul whispering, "You are not meant to live this way." Jung's idea of individuation tells us that becoming who we truly are is not about perfection. It is not about eradicating the shadow, the darkness that resides within us all. Instead, individuation is about integration. It is about accepting and embracing every part of ourselves, the light and the dark, the beauty and the chaos, and learning to live with them in harmony. This is not a process that can be rushed. It is a slow, steady unfolding, much like the growth of a tree that takes years to mature, yet appears effortlessly graceful once it has reached its full form. The process of individuation doesn't promise a life of ease. It doesn't guarantee that pain will vanish or that you will be free from struggle. In fact, it is often through struggle that we learn our greatest lessons. The goal is not to escape the pain, but to give it meaning, to transform it into something that serves you, something that leads you toward a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. In this sense, the brokenness we feel is not a tragic flaw, but a necessary part of the process. Just as the phoenix rises from the ashes, our greatest transformations often emerge from the most intense periods of struggle. We must let go of the illusion that pain is something to avoid, that suffering is a sign of failure. The truth is, suffering is an essential component of growth, of becoming who we are meant to be. It is only through facing our pain head-on, through walking the path of individuation, that we can become whole. It's easy to think that if only we could avoid discomfort, we would find peace, that if only we could fix our flaws, we would finally be at ease. But this mindset traps us in a cycle of endless striving. It is not our imperfections that are the problem. It is our rejection of them. It is our refusal to accept ourselves completely that keeps us stuck in a state of perpetual dissatisfaction. When we accept the totality of who we are, flaws and all, we begin to step into freedom. True freedom, not the kind that comes from external circumstances, but the kind that comes from within. The freedom to be yourself, without apology, without shame. Jung's words, though chilling, are profoundly liberating. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. It's terrifying because it requires us to let go of all the masks we've been wearing, to shed the identities that no longer serve us. It means facing the parts of ourselves we've spent years avoiding, the parts we fear will make us unlovable, unacceptable, or even unworthy of existence. It is terrifying because it demands radical honesty and brutal self-reflection. But it is also the beginning of freedom, because only when we accept ourselves in our entirety can we begin to step into our own power. Only then can we begin to live authentically according to our own truth, rather than the truth dictated by the expectations of others. This is not a freedom that can be given to us by society, or by success, or by validation. This is a freedom that comes from within, a freedom that emerges when we stop fighting ourselves and start embracing who we truly are. As we conclude this journey, remember that individuation is not a destination, it is a lifelong process. It is a path of continuous growth, self-discovery, and transformation. It is a path that may bring pain, but it will also bring meaning, purpose, and ultimately, peace. When you begin to accept yourself completely, your light, your shadow, your weaknesses, and your strengths, you will no longer be enslaved by the expectations of the world. You will be free to live authentically, to step into your own unique power, and to become who you were always meant to be. The road to individuation is not for the faint of heart. It will demand everything from you, but it is the only path that leads to true freedom. It is the only path that leads to the kind of peace that comes from within, a peace that cannot be shaken by external forces. And in the end, that is the only kind of peace worth striving for. So, let us ask once more, are you broken? Or are you simply waking up to the truth of who you are? Waking up to the fact that you've been living someone else's life, following someone else's map. The pain you feel is not your brokenness, it is the awakening of your true self. And that awakening, while terrifying, is the beginning of freedom. And now, here we are. The journey we've taken together through the mask, through the shadow, through the labyrinth of modern life has led us to this moment. A moment where you have a choice. You see, the most terrifying truth about individuation is not just facing your own darkness. It's realizing that, at any moment, you could slip back into the comfort of the mask, the persona that society expects of you, the one that shields you from the fear of rejection, from the discomfort of self-truth. You could return to the familiar, to the routine, to the script that everyone else is following. You could continue living in the haze of what's normal, as others define it for you. But you don't have to. You can choose the unknown. You can take the first step into the mystery of your true self. It's a step that may feel terrifying, uncomfortable, even lonely at times, but it is also the only path that leads to wholeness, to freedom, to meaning, the path that says, I am not broken. I am remembering who I am. In this moment, you're standing at the edge of a new beginning. The next move is yours. The question is not whether you're broken, but whether you're ready to face the truth of who you are. You can return to the mask, or you can step into the unknown, and perhaps, for the first time, you'll find peace. You're not broken. You're just remembering who you are. Fade to black.